Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going live tonight from Fanbase, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Tonight, we're reading his radio lecture, Answered Prayer. This is his lecture from July 1951. Oh, and you know it's going to be a good one. It's a short one, but short, sweet, and to the point, yes? Answered Prayer. Have you ever had a prayer answered? What wouldn't men give just to feel certain that when they pray, something definite would happen? For this reason, I would like to take a little time to see why it is that some prayers are answered and some apparently fall on dry ground. When we pray, believe that ye receive and ye shall receive. Believe that ye receive is the condition imposed upon man. Unless we believe that we receive, our prayer will not be answered. A prayer granted implies that something is done in consequence of the prayer, which otherwise would not have been done. Therefore, the one who prays is the spring of action, the directing mind, and the one who grants the prayer. Such responsibility man refuses to assume. For responsibility, it seems, is mankind's invisible nightmare. The whole natural world is built on law. Yet between prayer and its answer, we see no such relation. We feel that God may answer or ignore our prayer, that our prayer may hit the mark or may miss it. The mind is still unwilling to admit that God subjects himself to his own laws. How many people believe that there is between prayer and its answer a relation of cause and effect? Let us take a look at the means employed to heal the 10 lepers as related in the 17th chapter of the Gospel of St. Luke. The thing that strikes us in this story is the method that was used to raise their faith to the needful intensity. We are told that the 10 lepers appealed to Jesus to have mercy on them, that is, to heal them. Jesus ordered them to go and show themselves to the priest, and as they went, they were cleansed. The Mosaic law demanded that when a leper recovered from his disease, he must show himself to the priest to obtain a certificate of restored health. Jesus imposed a test upon the lepers' faith and supplied a means by which their faith could be raised to its full potency. If the lepers refused to go, they had no faith and therefore could not be healed. But if they obeyed him, the full realization of what their journey implied would break upon their minds as they went, and this dynamic thought would heal them. So we read, as they went, they were cleansed. Cause and effect. Well, you no doubt often have heard the words of that inspiring hymn. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Well, I myself came to this conviction through experience, being led to brood upon the nature of prayer. I believe in the practice and philosophy of what men call prayer. But not everything that receives that name is really prayer. Prayer is the elevation of the mind to that which we seek. Prayer is the elevation of the mind of that which we seek. The very first words, the very first word of correction is always arise always lift the mind to that which we seek. This is easily done by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. How would you feel if your prayer were answered? Well, assume that feeling until you experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if your prayer were answered. Prayer means getting into action mentally. It means holding the attention upon the idea of the wish fulfilled until it fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of the consciousness. This statement that prayer means getting into action mentally and holding the attention upon the idea of the wish fulfilled until it fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of the consciousness does not mean that prayer is a mental effort, an act of will. Rather, on the contrary, prayer is to be contrasted with the act of will. Prayer is a surrender. It means abandoning oneself to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If prayer brings no response, there is something wrong with the prayer, and the fault lies generally in too much effort. Serious confusion arises insofar as men identify the state of prayer with an act of will, instead of contrasting it with an act of will. The sovereign rule is to make no effort. And if this is observed, you will intuitively fall into the right attitude. Creativeness is not an act of will, but a deeper receptiveness, a keener susceptibility. The acceptance of the end, the acceptance of the answered prayer, finds the means for its realization. Feel yourself into the state of the answered prayer until the state fills the mind and crowds all other states out of your consciousness. What we must work for is not the development of the will, but the education of the imagination and the steadying of attention. Prayer succeeds by avoiding conflict. Prayer is, above all things, easy. Its greatest enemy is effort. The mighty surrenders itself fully only to that which is most gentle. The wealth of heaven may not be seized by a strong will, but surrenders itself, a free gift to the God-spent moment. Along the lines of least resistance travel spiritual as well as physical forces. We must act on the assumption that we already possess that which we desire. For all that we desire is already present within us. It only waits to be claimed. That it must be claimed is a necessary condition by which we realize our assumption. Let me read that again. It only waits to be claimed. That it must be claimed is a necessary condition by which we realize our desires. Our prayers are answered if we assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue in that assumption. One of the loveliest examples of an answered prayer I witnessed in my own living room. A very charming lady from out of town came to see me concerning prayer. As she had no one with whom to leave her 8-year-old son, she brought him with her the time of our interview. Well, seemingly, he was engrossed in playing with a toy truck. But at the end of the interview with his mother, he said, "Mr. Neville, I know how to pray now. I know what I want. A collie puppy. And I can imagine I am hugging him every night on my bed." His mother explained to him and to me the impossibilities of his prayer, the cost of the puppy, their confined home, even his inability to care for the dog properly. The boy looked into his mother's eyes and simply said, "But, mother, I know how to pray now." And he did. Well, 2 months later, during a Kindness to Animals Week in his city, all the school children were required to write an essay on how they would love and care for a pet. Well, then you have guessed the answer. His essay, out of the 5,000. Again, how many? 5,000. Not that it matters, but I'm just saying it to you again. Out of the 5,000 submitted, he won the prize. And that prize, presented by the mayor of the city to the lad, was a collie puppy. The boy truly assumed the feeling of his wish fulfilled, hugging and loving his puppy every night. Prayer is an act of imaginative love, which is to be the subject of my message next Sunday, he says. This is what he's talking about. And telling us how we, like the young boy, can yield ourselves to the lovely images of our desires and persist in your prayer, even though you, like the lad, are told that your desires are impossible. The necessity of persistence in prayer is shown us in the Bible. "Which of you," asked Jesus, "shall go unto him at midnight and say to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves? For a friend of mine has come to me from a journey, and I have nothing to set before him. And he from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not. The door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give thee.' I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will arise and give as many as he needeth." This is in Luke chapter 2. The word translated as importunity means literally shameless impudence. We must persist until we succeed in imagining ourselves into the situation of the answered prayer. The secret of success is found in the word perseverance. The soul imagining itself into the act takes on the results of the act. Not imagining itself into the act. Let me say this again. The soul imagining itself into the act takes on the results of the act, not imagining itself into the act. It is ever free from the result. Experience in imagination what you would experience in reality, were you already what you want to be, and you will take on the result of that act. Do not experience in imagination what you want to experience in reality, and you will ever be free of the result. When ye pray, believe that ye receive, and ye shall receive. One must persist until he reaches his friend on a higher level of consciousness. He must persist until his feeling of the wish fulfilled has all the sensory vividness of reality. Pardon me. Prayer is a controlled waking dream. If we are to pray successfully, we must steady our attention to observe the world as it would be seen by us were our prayer answered. One moment, please. Steadying attention makes no call upon any special faculty, but it does demand control of imagination. We must extend our senses, observe our changed relationship to our world, and trust this observation. The new world is not there to grasp, but to sense, to touch. The best way to observe it is to be intensely aware of it. In other words, we can, by listening as though we heard and by looking as though we saw, actually hear voices and see scenes from within ourselves that are otherwise not audible or visible. With our attention focused on the state desired, the outer world crumbles, and then the world, like music, by a new setting, turns all its discords into harmonies. Life is not a struggle, but a surrender. Our prayers are answered by the powers we invoke, not by those we exert. Oh, again. Our prayers are answered by the powers we invoke, not by those we exert. So long as the eyes take notice, the soul is blind. For the world that moves us is the one we imagine, not the world round about us. The world you imagine is the one that moves you, yes? We must yield our whole being to the feeling of being the noble one we want to be. If anything is kept back, the prayer is in vain. You see, we often are deprived of our high goal by our effort to possess it. We are called upon to act on the assumption that we already are the man we would be. If we do this without effort, experiencing in imagination what we would experience in the flesh had we realized our goal, we shall find that we do indeed possess it. The healing touch is in our attitude. We need change nothing but our attitude towards it. Here come the words of Portia. Assume a virtue if you have it not. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Pray for my soul. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Now that concludes the lecture for tonight, but this question from Brandon: are some of the furnaces part of a bridge of incident? Okay, the bridge of incidents is a series of causes and effects. Because you do this, well, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. So because you act in a particular way, the effect has to match the cause. The law of correspondence, as within, so without, as above, so below. But it is also the law of causation. So the bridge of incidents is not going to do something that you have not done. The bridge of incidents that Neville describes, a series of events happen. Let me give you an example. Okay? Let me give you an example. I last week was rocking in the corner. For real. And I was crying because I had to move. I had no idea, one, where I was going to move, two, if I was going to get the funds. Right? This was my thought. And after I had a good snotty cry, I said to myself, okay, look, I know what the law is. I know the law, damn it. There's no reason why I should be crying in the corner, but I am human after all. So don't neglect your humanity, yes? So I said, there is something, and here is what I need. I need this many rooms so I can do this, this, and this. I need this. I just said, this is what I need. That was my prayer. And so I got online and I looked. I picked up the phone and I called. And he said to me, but I just posted this not 5 minutes ago. Cause and effect. If I had languished any longer than I did, who knows? But my bridge of incidents occurred because I acted. I said, here's what needs to be done. And I heard, look again. And so I looked again. I felt quite like Abraham, ready to sacrifice my firstborn. And then there caught in the bush was my sacrifice. I digress. So I phoned. Do you know I was the first caller? Not only was I the first caller, but he says to me, listen, I shall not show it to anyone else. Can you come see it as soon as possible? We set up the day and the time. It was the day after. I went and I saw it and I fell in love. And he said, I shall not show it to anybody. Do you want it? You see, the bridge of incidents is not something that occurs magically. The bridge of incidents is based upon cause and effect. Where did he say it up in here before we go into the silence? Yes. He says, how many people believe that there is between prayer and its answer a relation of cause and effect? The moment you pray, you set something in motion. Cause, you prayed. Here's an effect. You follow through with the effect. And then another cause happens. Then you get another effect. So all you're doing to create that bridge of incidents is cause and effect based upon the original prayer. The acceptance of the end wills the means. So all of the causes and effects that must go along with this, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, is what makes the bridge of incidents. Brandon, I trust that makes sense to you. It's kind of sort of convoluted, but it is when you make that decision and you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, it begins to unfold. The effect begins to unfurl, but every effect has its cause. So then you will do something else, which will bring about another effect, which will cause you to do something else, which will bring about another effect. And by the time you're done, shoot, you've built the whole bridge. This is why persistence is necessary. Because if we do not persist, we don't build the bridge. I trust that makes sense. Why do we hold on for dear life to things we don't really want? Cyber, you are right on the money. We hold on by habit. We hold on by habit. You've done something for so long. You have seen yourself as one thing for so long. Oh, I can't do that. That is too much of a responsibility. And because you believe it, that's why it happens. Because you believe it. But in order for you to change, you must change what it is you believe. So I had to change that thing in the back of my head that said, oh, you can't do that. That's how I went from basement to house. I had to change my perception of myself. And however long it takes me to change my perception of myself is how long it takes for the thing to manifest. So that's why we do what we do. Yeah? And here's the thing, Cyber. You know what you want. You want to keep it. You want to keep it. So in order for you to keep it, you don't want to keep it vacant. You want to rent it. Do you not? So then do that. That is my suggestion to you. Keep it. Because that's what you want. Because you just said, I don't want to lose it. Which would mean I want to keep it. Do you see the difference between those two statements? I don't want to lose it. So you're telling me what you don't want, but what do you want? You want to keep it. So if you want to keep it, in what capacity? You see? So if you determine that you're going to keep it, well, then you could rent it out because you don't want to keep it vacant because you leaving money on the table. And by renting it, you can fund your way. That's a step or a stone on the bridge of incidents to Atlanta. You see? Well, you see, as humans, we always do this. We vacillate. Oh, I want this. Oh, maybe I don't. I want it. But I don't. In this case, when you find yourself vacillating, like a fish, when you take it out of water, it flops back and forth, vacillating. So, when you find yourself vacillating, take a moment to sit in the silence, which we will get into in a minute. When you feel yourself vacillating, stop and go into the silence and say, clarity. Because that is what you want. You want clarity. And you ask yourself, what is it that you truly want? Let me see some clarity here. And the same way you can ask yourself to name a song that you no longer remember, what's the name of that song? And then what happens to you? You start singing the song. So if you want clarity, you tell yourself, listen, I'm seeking clarity. What is it that you really want? Look in the mirror, in your eyes. What do you really want? And leave it alone. And you will get your answer. So don't vacillate. What do you want? That's the question you want to ask yourself because you're seeking clarity. And then you will know how to act. See what I'm saying? Well, if you are content, you see, when the mind is troubled, you understand, go back to the story of the lame man who was waiting by the pool of Bethesda. And he said, every time the angel comes down and troubles the water, I can't get in. Somebody else gets in before me. So if you find that your mind is disturbed, there is a desire. If there is contentment, the mind is not disturbed. It is grateful and constantly in a state of giving gratitude for that contentment. They feel different, contentment and desire. Contentment, you've got your hands behind your head and you're on the chaise and you're like, with a nice, cool coconut in your hand with a straw in it. It's a hot day. And when you sip that coconut water, all you can say is, that is contentment. But if you find that desire is there, then the pool has been stirred or disturbed. And again, you can ask yourself, what is going on here? Why do I feel so disturbed? Show me. And you'll get the answer. So you see tonight, my beautiful friends, as Neville said, everything we need is within us. It is within us. So, I love you. We have 5 minutes of silence. Now, before we get into the silence, be clear. What is it that you want to experience? Now, I gave an example this morning about phobias. People who have phobias, a phobia is an intense, irrational fear of something. It could be water, it could be air, it could be dust. I'm not going to mention things other than that because we have to go to sleep, right? But all they do is think about it and their body goes into full shock mode. They haven't seen it. They're just remembering. In their mind's eye, they're recalling a memory. And in their body says, oh my God, this is happening, right? So if you can think about something that petrifies you and have a visceral response. It's just in your imagination. It's not there in the room with you. So if you can do that, well, can you not think of something that you love and have a visceral response in your body to it? And do what? Begin to experience in imagination what you would experience in reality? You're doing the same thing. Would what you want to experience have somebody naturally say congratulations to you? Do what you would do naturally. So as you are here in the silence and you say, I want to experience a new job. Now, if you had that job, who's the first person that would know? Well, barring you, who's the first person you would tell? And how would they treat you? What would you hear them say? I'll give you an example. I'm in the recesses of my own mind. When I think of a particular person, I'm thinking of her right now. I just want to say, silence, demon, silence. That's all I want to say. Because that's how much she just, people say, I want to put my hands around your neck and just squeeze until you stop. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like viscerally, I get riled up. And when we do those things, we begin to have an internal conversation that we truly believe in. Now, I give you that one as an example because it's true for me. So, what's true for you? Is there someone that you would hear tell you, congratulations for your good news? Is it someone who'd say, why do all the good things happen to you? Is it someone who'd be jealous of you? Well, carry on a conversation. So Neville says to you, carry on the conversation, experience in imagination. But remember how that conversation makes you feel. And go back to the feeling. All you have to do is capture the feeling of the conversation and bring that up every time. So as we sit in the silence, we're getting there, honest, for real, we're getting there. I'm just paving the way for you, especially if there are any new listeners in the space. So if tonight you know what you want, and you know who would celebrate with you, or you know who would judge you on what they would say, feel what they would say to you. Feel it. Oh my God. What do all the good things happen to you? You're so lucky. Are you going to help me out with something now that you have all of this money? You owe me, See how that would make you feel? I digress. Then you capture the feeling. Rest for 5 minutes in the afterglow of that feeling. You know what I'm saying to you. Let us go into the silence. And there you have it, my beautiful friends. Rest well tonight. Full smarts. Sorry. I'm just reading a comment, okay? On fan base. Look, this is why I love you guys. Oh, listen, I love you. And and I know that the law is the most beautiful thing in the world. There would be no world without it. There'd be no me without it. Ah, I just, yes. Now, when you put your head on your pillow, remember the feeling you got? Oh, fall asleep with that feeling. Night after night after night after night after night. And you will find that the bridge of incidents will open up before you. Okay. Remember that. Now, a little bit, and I say, countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night, Commander.
Good night.
Night, Miss Fawn. Miss Deborah, Miss Cherry. Good night to you all as well. Brandon, Cyber, Shea Butter, and the others who've not made yourselves known here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, rest well also. Much love to you all.